Good morning, children. We're going to have a short time for time with you to share with you something about the practice. And you remember this? What this brother's name is? Brother Awesome. Yeah. Yesterday, Brother Awesome, he came up to me and he said, "Why did everybody laugh when they heard that I was from Florida?" And I said, I don't know, brother. I don't know, maybe English people find Florida a funny place to come from. And then this morning it dawned on me, it wasn't because he was from Florida, it's because you were laughing because his name is Awesome, right? Because Awesome, and Brother Awesome, he said, yeah, that must be it, because Awesome's quite a funny name, yeah. But he is, do you know what Awesome means? Anybody?
It means awesome.
Exactly. Awesome means awesome. Okay, so Brother Awesome is going to sing I think a song you know, Breathing In, Breathing Out. Mountain Solid, you know that? Remember that one? So do you know how to do the hand movements? Mountain Solid. Okay, we're going to do that. Breathing in, breathing out, breathing in, breathing out. I am blue as a flower. I am fresh as the dew. I am solid as a mountain. I am firm as the earth. I am free, breathing in, breathing out, breathing in, breathing out. I am water reflecting what is real, what is true, and I feel there is space deep inside of me. I am free, I am free, I am free. What do we say? Awesome, yeah. It's cool. Thank you, brother. We can, so put the guitar. You can stay up if you want. No? How many of you sometimes get anxious? Children, hands up. Sometimes. Not all the time, but sometimes. Get anxious? No, just one or two. How about angry? Definitely? Okay. Oh, okay. Yeah. But you love your mum? Ah, okay. Sometimes. It's always sometimes. I used to have a book when I was your age called Sometimes. There was a lot of wisdom in Sometimes. It's not always like that. Is there any other times we have a funny emotion that's not nice? We've had I mentioned anxiety, anger. Do you ever get any other feelings that you don't like? Boredom. Do you ever get bored? Oh, now some hands are going up. Yeah. And fear. Do you ever get frightened? Yeah. That's kind of like anxiety, yeah? Yeah. What else? How about greedy? Do you ever get like, you really want something badly and you can't have it, or something, and then you get upset. Right. And then yes. And then when we don't get what we want, we can sometimes get a bit. No? When you don't get what you want, can we get angry? Get upset? Yeah. So we know that happens. We know. Yeah. And sometimes when we're angry, we say things maybe to our mummy, maybe to our brother or our sister or our friend. We say something we regret. We say something mean, something not nice, and afterwards we want to say sorry. Has that ever happened? Yeah? Oh yeah, there's a hand at the back as well. And sometimes we wish we hadn't done that, but at least we have the chance to say sorry. And then our friend says, or our brother says, it's okay, thank you for saying sorry. Maybe? Yeah? Or maybe sometimes they say something mean back. Yeah? And then maybe they say sorry. Yeah. But we know that when we get angry, I had a 5-year-old boy one time at a school, and he wanted to learn how to breathe. He came to this, we called it a mindfulness club at this school. And we asked, why have you come? And he said, because I really don't like it when I get angry. And he gets angry a lot. And he thought that maybe the breathing would help him with the anger. Because when we think about being angry, we're angry with somebody. But we also know that the anger feeling is not very nice. And sometimes it makes us not even say nice things to the other person. And then we have to say sorry, right? So wouldn't it be wonderful if we had a way to take care of our anger so that it doesn't get too big and make us feel so unpleasant, but that we can take care of it and it can calm down, and then we don't have to say the bad things, and then we have to say sorry. So how many of you, because I know some of you have been to Plum Village, have actually made that, have been able to do that? You've been able to breathe with your anger and help it calm down. Have you made a success? Yeah? Does any of you want to say anything about how that happened for you? One time? One of you had your hand up? But you did do it, right? You breathed with your anger, is that right? You put your hand up. Just checking. Yeah, it happened. So you got angry one time and you were able to breathe and calm it down. Right. That's good. Yeah. So, where's my bag gone? The other side. Brother Awesome's hiding my bag. Yeah. So I have some books here that I took from the children's program, so I'll have to get them back. Right. So this book is called Anne's Anger. And you see Anne, he's the boy sitting in front, right? And guess what's behind him? It's like a monster with a red head and a green tongue. What's that? Yeah, it's Anne's anger. So it belongs to Anne, and it's his anger. Do you have an anger that belongs to you, like that? A kind of monster behind it sometimes? Does it look like that, or does it look different? Like, imagine if you had to draw your anger. Would you draw it like that? Something different? You drew your anger. What kind of color? Black with colorful chicken pox. Anybody else have drawn their anger? Oh gosh. Right, also red. A triangle, yeah. Sharp edges. Yeah, sharp edges, yeah. So this is actually another book, the same. This is Anne, and it's looking from him from above, and he's walking. And that's also his good friend, anger. Yeah. But he knows how to take care of anger. He learnt in this first book, he learned how to sit with his anger. And in this second book, he taught himself how to walk with his anger. So this is 2 ways you can do. You can sit and breathe, or you can take your anger for a walk. Wouldn't that be fun? You go out and say, I'm going to, instead of shouting at mummy or shouting at my brother, I'm going to go and take a walk with my anger. Yeah, you can do that. You can say, I'm just going to have a walk with my anger. And maybe the anger inside wants to dance or do something like that. And so you kind of get it a little bit out of your system. Yeah, go on. Go to a chippy. You can certainly go to a chippy with your greed, can't you? I'll have a large bag of chips with lots of salt and vinegar, please. That kind of chippy. Yeah. And so there are ways we can do to take care of our anger. We can do the breathing. We can go for a walk. Yeah. And there are other emotions, like when we have anxiety, or we even our boredom is a kind of an emotion. And the song we just sang with Brother Awesome, Mountain Solid, can help us to be able to be with our emotion without getting moved around. Because, show me how you sit like a mountain. Okay, you put your hands up. Now, you don't have to put your hands up like that. You just put your hands on your knees, and just imagine your head is like the top of the mountain, and your shoulders like, coming out wider, and the base is where you're sitting. And now, can you imagine a mountain breathing? Yeah. You're the mountain, and you're breathing. Yeah. Enjoying your in-breath and your out-breath. And you're very still and you're solid. And it means that with the emotion, you don't get moved around. There's another image that is quite nice for when we want to be with our emotion. And it's to imagine that you're a tree. So now I want to imagine you're a tree. Now, try this. Put your hands up like as if you've got, this time your hands up and they're the branches of the tree, okay? So an emotion is like a storm that comes, okay? So, or put up your hands like that. And now, what happens when the storm comes? Yeah. Whoa. Comes through the branches, and if the branches even can break some of the branches at the top. Yeah, like this, because the storm's very strong. Now, what happens to the trunk of the tree when in the storm? The trunk is like your tummy, yeah? It breaks. I hope not. Yeah. In a yeah. Okay. It could could be hit by lightning. But the image we're giving you is a tree that is very strong, like an oak tree. So even it's a big storm, the trunk of the tree stays very straight. And you know why? Because it's also got roots in the ground. So you are like a tree, and if the emotion comes, instead of being in the top branches, thinking about what happened, you come down and you notice your belly rising and falling with your in-breath. So what I want you to do is put your hand on your tummy, and as you breathe in, can you notice your belly rising, falling? So when you get a strong emotion, come down to the trunk of your tree. Don't stay up in the top branches, right? Instead come down, maybe put your hand on your tummy, and as you breathe in, you notice your tummy rising, breathing out, falling, and that way you just stay there with your in breathing and your out breath just for maybe 2 minutes, 3 minutes, and the emotion, the strong emotion, has time to rage like the storm, but you're not up there, you're down here, and then gradually it calms down. And it just takes a little bit of time. You have to be patient, and you just stay safe with your belly breathing, okay? So you can try that. You can try that for yourself. Maybe, if just possibly even in the next day or two, if it happens and you get to try it, you can report back to the Sangha if you were able to do that, okay? So I really, we haven't got time to read the books right now, so I hope you have maybe a chance to find these books. They're very good fun. This one, I'll just share a little bit about what happens, because maybe you can remember it might happen to you when you're playing at school, and the friends you're playing with, maybe they want to play something different. That's what happens in this book. He's at school, and the other children, they want to play football, he wants to do something else, and they say something mean to him, so he's on his own, and he imagines doing something mean to them. And then he thinks maybe that's not the best idea, because even though he's a bit angry with his friends, he doesn't want to hurt them really, but the anger makes him think the bad thoughts. So what does he do? Remember I told you? He takes his anger for a walk. So please enjoy these books. Okay, so I think you would enjoy now to go to the children's program with Brother Kiwi, Brother Nemo. Okay. So if you'd like to, at the sound of the small bell, stand up and turn around and bow to the Sangha. Thank you. See you later. Good morning, dear community. Today is the 29th of May 2019. We're at Stourbridge retreat, the second full day of our retreat, technically the third day, because we had I'm going to share something about that beeping. Because I was trying to also reflect on my talk this morning, and there was some similar beeping going on with these doorstop things. I don't know if anybody else experienced it. And I found it quite difficult to concentrate. And I also remember there's lots of beeping when we were having breakfast on a retreat, the pre-retreat when we were here with the coffee machine, people getting the teas, and it would beep and then beep. And I noticed how I was getting some irritation coming up. And then I was sat outside and I was listening to a beautiful bird who was also kind of beeping. I thought, why am I enjoying that sound so much? And it's very similar to the beeping sound. You know? Can I turn the electronic beep into a beautiful bird beep? So I tried that. Moderately successful. But so it's a little lesson in trying, sometimes experimenting, like trying to relate to what is going on in different ways. Sometimes it's just our perception of the way we're perceiving, the meaning we give things that causes the most suffering. Yeah. And when we discover the causes and conditions behind the thing that's causing us to suffer, we more easily let go. Yeah. And so for instance, when I found out Ross was doing everything he could to have the noise stop, I thought, okay, it's being taken care of. I just accept. It's like that. Yesterday, I shared with the children on the subject of the 4 gratitudes. And I got some feedback that it was appreciated, that also for us as grown-ups, we're obviously, particularly the one about parents, it's an important one. We may not always have the best relationship with our parents, but we recognize the importance of having gratitude for our mother and father, because they brought us into life. This is our biological mother and father. And of course, I actually thought maybe there should be another gratitude, because this is from our sort of traditional way, to say gratitude for our family. It may be that, because also it can be that our biological parents, one of them or both of them, were not in the family home. Perhaps we were adopted. Perhaps we were brought up by grandparents or another carer, somebody else, somebody fostering, caring for us. In the case of my, I know in my father's side, my grandmother, who passed away when I was 8 years old, but I remember being told she took care of her 2 brothers because they were quite a bit younger than her. So families can take many forms, and we have to, so our gratitude is very much to where we had a home, where we received love. And also we remember, and hope, for many of us also, we have the fortune that our biological parents were the ones that brought us up, and so they're the same. Yeah. But there are many forms, and they can be also very, very wonderful places where we receive the nurturing and the love. I have an adopted sister. My mother adopted her when she was 18, actually, and I became quite close with her, and I still visit her, and she has 3 lovely sons, but she's married with another woman. So the sons, they know the father, but they're being brought up by, so that's two mums. So it's partly what came to me when I was sharing with the children. I was thinking of my sister. Yeah. So when we also notice that gratitude is not so easy, because maybe there's been a difficulty in our relationship with our father or our mother, we also know that we have maybe some healing to do. There was on a retreat a few years ago, a woman came to me. I think she was in her close to 70 years old. She was very healthy, fit woman, very straightforward, and I had given a talk on the subject of letting go of, and part of it is letting go of resentment. And she came to me and said, how can I let go of my anger and my resentment? Is it possible to let go of my anger and resentment towards my mother? Since she already died some 40 years ago, but she's still angry and resentful to her. And I said, yes, this is possible. And she said, oh, thank you very much, now I know it's possible. And she went off. And then she came back to me the next day and she said, how do you do it? And so we sat down and I said, well, maybe it's going to take more than 4 minutes, because she actually said, I just need 4 minutes of your time. I can see you're very busy monk, I said, maybe it's going to take longer than 4 minutes, but I said, I have time, let's have a consultation, maybe it's 40 minutes. It turned out to be 40 minutes. And in that time, she shared with me the story, which I won't repeat, but it was important information of what happened in the growing up, and where was the cause of the resentment. And it happened when she was 6 years old. So there was an abandonment situation. There was good reasons why the mother had to do that, but there was a resentment that got seed when she was just from 6 years old, and it grew and grew. After hearing the story, I basically was able to sense her mother, and we did a beginning anew. So there's going to be a presentation on the practice of beginning anew. And the basic stages are you express appreciation, you express regret. There's also expressing difficulty, but expressing appreciation and expressing regret. And on behalf of the mother, I expressed my appreciation for her as if she was my daughter, and then I expressed my regret. And even if the mother who'd already passed away was not in a position to do that, and even if she was here, but she doesn't know the language, she's not able to touch the right place to share like that. Nevertheless, you can know you can absolutely know that if she was in the right place, if she was able to practice meditation, to calm down, if she was able to look deeply and see what had happened, and understand her suffering, and then look at her daughter and remember what happened, she would absolutely be able to, from her heart, be able to say how much she cherishes the daughter, that it was not her fault that this happened, and that she has the regret that that happened to her. And it does not mean that she is not lovable, that she is not deserving of the love, and that she is her beautiful daughter. That is in the mother's heart, but it's maybe buried and layered depending on the circumstances of the mother. But we can know that that original love is there. But the mother did not have the good fortune to have the teachings, to be able to be in touch with that place and to be able to express like that. And unfortunately, she had died. So the experience of this 70-year-old woman was first of all, it kind of happened spontaneously, so it was quite a funny moment. She said, "Are you sharing with me as my mother?" And I said, "Yes, I think I am," because I was finding myself saying these things. And she said, "Oh, okay." And I said, "Is that all right?" And she said, "Yes, please, carry on." As if she was quite choppy, And then she kind of let it in, and she said she really felt she received that from her mother. She let it come to her heart, and it helped heal. And then she was in touch with regret, her regret, that she had not done this work earlier, and then she had this regret for the 40 years that she just stayed in an angry place with her mother, this resentment. So when we're holding resentment, holding anger, a bit like I was saying with the children, anger's not a pleasant feeling. But when it becomes resentment and bitterness, it's something almost we become accustomed to it, and we can't imagine being able to let it go. It feels like it's a toxic waste ground which can never be visited. It's got fences around it saying biohazard, and we better not go there. And the experience that I just recounted tells another story, that it's often the healing can be quite dramatic and quite, well, it wasn't 4 minutes, but it was over 40 minutes. There had to be the story, there had to be the understanding, and then there was the beginning anew. And I have checked with her afterwards, and the healing it was you know, it was lasting. You know, it was something to really build on. So it is possible to heal. It is possible to let go of resentment and bitterness and pain and these wounds. We have to somehow, look deeply to see what happened. When I think of my own, or just to complete that, I think it's just about complete, but I think just to say her regret that she'd somehow wasted the 40 years was, for me, in a way, the startling point. It was like, wow, now she's immediately, as soon as she'd been able to let go of the resentment by receiving this love from the mother, and then she had the regret come. She wished she would have done that earlier and could then actually have enjoyed a connection to her mother. I think that's what I wanted to complete, because then because the resentment was blocking the connection, and we do need our connections to our roots, and our parents are somewhat our roots. We have different roots, ancestral roots. Our parents are our roots, and if we know that they're blocked somehow, we can do things to unblock. It's not a question of should. It's not a question of if you don't, that's terrible. It's for your happiness, for your freedom, for your love to be able to circulate again. It's like maybe part of you is numb. Yeah. You can live with it, but this woman was already 70 and was having a very full life. It's not that, it's just that there was this part that became free and healed. It was a beautiful thing to see. So, in our ancestral background, there is much suffering, and there is also that gets transmitted to us, as well as all of the strengths. And I think today, Sister Annabelle will be guiding a session and transmitting the practice of touching the earth. And it's a very precious opportunity to receive that transmission from Sister Annabelle. And it will be very much related to our ancestors, spiritual ancestors and blood ancestors, and healing these things. So maybe as preparation, just consider these key relationships, these roots that you have with your spiritual ancestors and your blood ancestors. And I was considering this morning as well, the gratitude to family includes, of course, brothers and sisters. And we may have wounds with brothers and sisters. We may have, I feel very close to my brother and my sister. But I've also been through times where there have been blocks in the relationship and resentments that needed to be understood and sort of let go on both sides, to free up that love and that connection again, to get that sap flowing through the roots. We get back a lot of energy when we have our roots are not impeded like that. So you may want to consider these kinds of relationships and bring that in your heart with your willingness to let go. And letting go is a process. It may not happen in 40 minutes, but you make a start, of just a willingness to look and be there with what is. Not trying to force anything, but knowing that conditions can arise where it's possible to let go. And we can say forgive. Thai has often said he doesn't teach forgiveness. He teaches understanding. And forgiveness is a fruit of understanding. When we really understand the causes and conditions, naturally the letting go, the forgiveness can come. But it's not just about understanding the causes and conditions of the person we're trying to forgive. It's also about understanding what's really going on for us, what's happening for us. So when we are in touch with that, that has to be, there too. I think people do also sometimes fall into that trap, try to forgive. I really understand what happened for them, but they therefore can somewhat forgive intellectually. In the head, they forgive, but this block is still there. It's because something has stayed very loyal to your pain, because you haven't actually understood your pain and got the healing there. So when we have a block to being able to forgive or let go, we can maybe honor that block as well and say, if it's not easy for me, there's a reason for that. There's a reason for that. So you don't have to feel, I'm not a good practitioner, I'm not able to let go. And I just haven't understood what this block is about yet. So we also give time to ourselves, be patient, and but knowing that is important work to do. That is very this healing work. It's healing of generations. I look at my father, lots of wonderful qualities that I feel he transmitted, creativity. He used to tell us stories, me and my brother, stories at night, and he just made them off the top of his head. So I a little bit in Dharma talks I evoke that, my dad. Just trusting, the sort of creativity of my father is in me. He loved to play piano, and I used to love to listen to him playing piano. He was a brilliant eye surgeon. I remember I went to the hospital where he worked one time because on my 21st birthday I broke my ankle. Actually, I didn't break it, I badly sprained it, but it felt like I'd broken it. I'm lying. Anyway, I went to the hospital, and it was like, talk about gifts of suffering, because I really suffered that night. Even I'd drunk a lot of whiskey. My ankle was so painful. When I woke up, I was crying with the pain. And I went to the hospital, and the nurse that finally came out to see me at the Doncaster Royal Infirmary casualty saw my name, which is a bit unusual. French, because it's a French name. My dad's side a French family came from Mauritius to England. And she said, are you the son of Robert, my father, Robert Bouchera? I said, yeah. I said, I was a nurse with him in the, and she described how wonderful it was to work with him. And he was very lovely man to work with, and she gave me some hilarious stories that I really, so it was. They're somewhat unrepeatable here. I'm trying to work sense of them in my mind. I mean, kind of wicked sense of humour. He got cancer. He passed away when I was 13, and when he was in surgery, because he saw that they were all he was still, he got diagnosed, and they all knew the diagnosis, the team that he was with, and he saw that they were quite, sort of sympathetic and a bit sad, knowing that he got this diagnosis, and they were sort of being very considerate and not smiling. So my father pretended to drop dead in the middle of and then said, "Only joking, I'm not dead yet," just to lighten up the operating theatre. So, but the patient survived. got their cataract replaced or removed. So I got this absolute gift of these anecdotes that I didn't know about on my 21st birthday because I'd sprained my ankle. So you never know, when you get something bad happen to you. So that's my it's a little teaching point there. Don't be too sure. It's the bad thing. There's talking on that point. There's an amazing story that I feel it's important to people to see. Anita Moorjani is this Indian woman from Hong Kong who got terrible cancer, and she gives this TED talk. You can watch it. I'll give you the reference if you're interested. But she describes this, how the cancer turned out to be this incredible gift because she got to experience I guess you could say she had a kind of spiritual awakening, let's say. And anyway, I won't spoil it, you can watch it. But going back to my father, also he had a lot of suffering, and he had a problem with alcohol, and he could be quite bad-tempered sometimes and harsh with me. He would even say, shortly before he passed away, he said, "Oh, I'm hard on you because you remind me of myself," like things that there's some traits in you. And I was just a young boy, but somehow that was helpful to hear, in that he could share that, because he was giving me, he's letting me know it's not my fault. He was acknowledging that he could be harsh with me and things like that. But I share this to say, when I look at my father and the suffering that he had, it has helped me a lot to understand his family background, like what happened to him as a child. And he was separated from his mother when he was very young because of the Second World War. They were living in London, and he was billeted out with there was 4 brothers, and they had to move to another place, I think Windsor or something. And the whole school, in fact, this Catholic school, which was also a source, I understand, of some suffering for him, because it was quite harsh school, the way they were, but they were moved. The whole school was moved to this other place. So he had this separation from his mother at a young age, and I think 10 years old, and then he I remember one time him sharing about that to me, and how he would sometimes make a long walk just to have one night to stay at his mother's house. And then his mother would send him back the next day, because they weren't allowed, they weren't supposed to. But that's how much he missed his mother. And so these stories really help you understand some of what's been transmitted and what he was holding, what he was dealing with. And when we understand that, it helps. And also, Tai has often said, they did not have the good fortune to find a path of healing and transformation. And that is what the path of mindfulness can help with. There are actually many things that we have available to us to help with healing, both physical and mental. You could call it psychotechnology that we have, ways to understand ourselves, and psychotherapeutic techniques, and there's these things now, what do they call it? Tapping and EMDR for trauma. There's so many ways that can complement, the healing process. But for me, mindfulness is a foundational part of any healing practice. At some point, you're going to want mindfulness in there, because it's the basic aspect of being able to be there with what is, of being and of the awareness. And in the longer term, you may heal from trauma, but then you still need to build a balanced life. We have to know how to appreciate the gift of life. That is the meditation this morning. Breathing in, I know I'm alive. We need our solidity, we need our calm, and we can touch the appreciation for the life that we have. The life that is somehow come through our ancestors. And then with this appreciation and gratitude, we also can on a daily basis really cherish our relationships, our gratitude for our relationships, and gratitude for our own life, and we know how to nourish our joy, nourish our happiness. So just one way the Buddha gave us was simply to smile. He said, smiling to ourselves. I think Sister Annabelle in the orientation said, learning how to not just smile for a social smile to other people, but learning to turn that smile to yourself. Smile to your body, smile to your feelings, smile to your mind. Generating a feeling of joy is a practice we can do. It doesn't mean we are saying no to the suffering. We've already said suffering is important for the mud and the lotus, to grow the lotus. But we need joy to balance. And Sister Annabelle said, we have a responsibility to nourish our joy also. So let us enjoy a sound of the bell, and with this sound of the bell, let us close our eyes and smile to our body, smile to ourselves. Yesterday, I didn't take time for a cup of tea. And my sister, who prepared the tea, said, "Brother Fablai, please take time for a cup of tea. I prepared it for you." So, let me see. This is another transmission from Thai, how to drink a cup of tea in a Dharma talk. Mindfully. Let it brew. Taking time to drink a cup of tea is a practice that I wish I could remember it exactly, but there's some Thai gives something, he says something like, imagine the whole axis of the universe is revolving around you drinking that cup of tea. Is that right? Did people remember that one? It's a beautiful, anyway, you'll find it. So when you are drinking your tea, you have your mindfulness held, you're like holding mindfulness in your two hands. And you and the tea, yeah, it's like a moment of communion. It can be a sacred moment. So mindfulness is in a sense the art of turning the mundane, the everyday, into the sacred, creating ritual, creating. If we have rituals, it's for that. It's to turn actions into something sacred. Not because there's some magical I don't know, some esoteric thing behind it, but the simplicity of just being with what is happening and being grateful in that moment, stopping and not putting something in front of you before. This cup of tea in my two hands, mindfulness held perfectly, my mind and body dwell in the very here and now. Plum village tradition has its roots. Just as we have our roots, our blood ancestors, and you could say our love ancestors, those that have loved us. And I was going to share a little on that.
But this book is joyfully together, which I hope we are. See if I can find. I should have marked the page. Plum Village is a meditation centre established in 1982. It's 1 hour drive from Bordeaux. It was first called Persimmon Village because of all the persimmon trees. And then later on, young Vietnamese practitioners from all over the world came to learn about the practice. They offered their pocket money to buy and plant 1,250 plum trees to represent the 1,250 monastics in the original Sangha of the Buddha. So they're in Lower Hamlet. And from then on, the centre has been called Plum Village, Village des Pruniers. The root temple of Plum Village is Tu Hieu Temple in Vietnam, where our meditation lineage began. And we at Plum Village are descendants of Tu Hieu Temple. I still remember the day when I was a young novice aspirant, sitting and weeding the garden around the half-moon lake in front of the temple. Even today, in my mind, I can clearly see the image of the early morning mist floating over the lotus lake through the temple's 3 portals. Now, at Plum Village, I am an elder in our lineage, and after 30 years of practicing Sangha building, the Sangha body of Plum Village includes monks and nuns of many different nationalities in many countries. And we know some of the history and the continuation since then. Thai goes on to talk about all of the Sanghas there are in the world, and 800 Sanghas, but probably that's hopefully more now. And now Thai is back at Tu Hieu Temple in Vietnam. His wish is to be there, and he wrote a letter to say he is there for us, to reconnect us to our root temple, because the international Plum Village tradition, Plum Village in France, and we have centres in the States, Germany, Hong Kong, Australia, a few places, but Tu Hieu is the root temple, so he wants to be there to connect us, like the full circle, the Zen circle, to our root. That is the main reason Thai is there. For us, to connect us. And he set the intention that is where he will spend his last days. Quite a few times, many of you may know this story, so sorry if you know, but it's such a beautiful thing that Thai has often shared long before he got sick. He said, one day Thai will pass away, and they will build a stupa. It's like a memorial thing for Thai. Thai's not so interested in having stupa built, but Thai knows that they will build one anyway. So he says, well, if you insist on building a stupa, at least you have to put these words, I am not here. And then it goes on to say, and I'm not out there either. You may find me in your way of breathing. You may find me in your way of walking. That's what I recall what he would have on the stupa. Yeah. So, if we want to be connected to time, we can remember that. His transmission of his Dharma body, as he calls it, his teaching body, his practice body. It's what he practiced and how he connected to love, to life, to everything around, to the beauty of nature, of Mother Earth. He said, reverence is the nature of my love. When we're in that place of true connection, we have the reverence for life naturally comes. The first mindfulness training is called reverence for life. I'm not going to drink more tea because it's making my tummy rumble. You can hear it on the microphone. Sorry, sister. Looks like I won't have time to do the Eightfold Path. I asked Sister Chandok, what should I do for this morning? She said, well, since you talked about the Four Noble Truths, you better do the Eightfold Path. Okay. So I'll just list it off for you. It's actually, because I think Brother Treasure, he was sharing about the 5 mindfulness trainings. And it's an expression, the 5 mindfulness trainings are the concrete expression of the Eightfold Noble Path, which is right view, right thinking, right speech. So the 4th mindfulness training you heard sharing about. The right view, what you might think, what is the right view? Yeah? And it's basically the view that comes from the non-dualism, when we don't make separation. The left brain is very good at separating things and categorizing and naming things, right? The right brain has this capacity to experience things as a whole. And that's, we have both. We very much need the capacity to discriminate, to name things. It helps us navigate life. But we could lose our connection to the whole if we just focus on that. And of course, it goes further because we discriminate between peoples, and we even discriminate against animals. Think, oh, we're better than, or we're different. Which, by the way, is also just such a natural thing that we do that. We are a social animal, and we form tribes, and we have it inbuilt in us to discriminate against other tribes as well. But if we're to survive as a human species, we can do better than that. We can evolve to inclusivity and see that, we don't have to be tribal in that way. We can celebrate diversity and respect different ways. So this is part of the training, the mindfulness training, the way of thinking, the view that we have. And then the right speech is the loving speech, the deep listening. Listen before you think you understand. Listen in order to understand the other person. They may be sharing And there, Avalokiteshvara is the bodhisattva of great listening to the suffering. And there is a beautiful expression of listening to what is said and listening to what is not being said. Sometimes we listen deeply because we're giving that's what we're doing in our Dharma sharing. We're practicing deep listening, circle sharing, very beautiful practice. If we can bring that spirit of listening to our close relationships. And then there is right action, bodily actions. And we do want to act. We want to have power to do things for the benefit of, to give back and to take part in life, in making life more beautiful. Sometimes the actions are protesting against what is happening. But if we are to take part in that kind of action, we must do it from a place of being peace, like the title of this retreat. And also with the non-dualistic look, with knowing that the other side has also got their causes and conditions for. So it's not from a place of hatred, but from a place of love that we act. And in a way, if you want to get Zen, not attached to the results, but just trusting in the spirit of the action, trusting in the love that the action is coming from, that is meaning enough. And then the next, the other thing I wanted to share about right action is it's so much easier and more fun, more joyful when we do joyfully together, like the title of this book. When we do as a community. And when we have suffering to take care of, in our family or in our community, perhaps we have some child with special needs. This is some of the feedback I got. I myself have a niece with Down syndrome, and it's so wonderful to see her in the family, have her in the family. She brings so much, the special way she is, and even I can say her younger sister, you can see how she's developed so much of this kind of considerate nature because of having a sister like she has. So it enriches us to have children with special needs and that are somehow different, etc. But it also, and we want them in the community, but they also need the special attention. They have special needs. So we need some expertise and we need support. And if there is one thing that is something sad about modern society, let's say, is the nuclear family becomes the only kind of unit where the love and the care, and we've lost the village. That's why I like the name Plum Village. There is an expression that's quite trendy now. It takes a village to bring up a child. But we don't have the villages anymore. We don't have the communities, the extended communities. We maybe have if we're lucky, we have our grandparents who can step in to babysit or something like that. Of course, we do have some good elements of community. I mean, again, if I think of my niece, the school. So the school should be a second home. It should be a place where there is love. It's not just to cram in knowledge, right? It should be part of the community. And that is possible, but sometimes yeah. So we need to, if that's to be true, the school, we also want to be involved and be part of, so it's not just I drop my kids at the school and then but making the school part of the community. So in Brighton we have a school called, it's one of the only Buddhist schools in Europe, and they have the parents and the teachers and the pupils, they practice mindfulness, and they have sanghas, and we have the parents and the teachers come together and practice. And they form connection like that, and they have Dharma sharing. So we need, if our actions are to be strong, we need community. If we are to take care of our children, especially those with special needs, we need community. And we do have elements of community in the UK. I think when I look at the school system, it's still good, and the NHS and things like that. But somehow we need to get to the more village model, the feeling of really, not just people paid to do this, to be the carer, or we're going to get back more to community spirit. I think the Camp Hill communities were a beautiful model. I don't know if you know about them. And there are still some of those. So these are things we can invest in. In terms of actions for nature, one of the things I'm very inspired by is the rewilding projects. So if you have a chance to, there's one on Knepp Farm, K-N-E-P-P, I think. I've forgotten the name of the woman. She gives an amazing talk about how she turned an intensive farming area into a completely bringing it back to the natural state of the land and all of the species that have come back. June Mitchell told me she's going to visit. Yeah, hopefully. And so these rewilding projects and reforesting projects and bringing back, we need to give nature a chance again. Yeah. Because we were losing all the insects. And the insects, without the insects, we cannot live. Now, I'm no longer irritated by insects when I see them. I'm like, oh my gosh, thank you for being here, How can I help you, And you see it's amazing, huh? I now wish to see bugs on the windscreen. You don't see them anymore. We don't get them. It's a tragic situation, and mostly it's attributed to the amount of chemicals that's used, as well as the intensive farming. And if we were to go vegan, if we were to eat vegetarian, we would get back a lot of land available to be rewilded, and very enriching. The wealth that we would have from that. And also the meat industry creates a lot of, there's so much suffering of the animals, and it's a big contributor to climate change. So please consider to reduce your meat consumption as an act of compassion. To keep your compassion alive is the contemplation before eating, keeping our compassion alive. We can touch the seed of despair, it's there, that we cannot reverse. But we can stop contributing. And we don't want to don't underestimate the power of action that comes from the right place. And for it to come from the right place, we do need mindfulness. We do need to stop and really be connected to what is true, what is real in ourselves, to come from the right place. So part of the way to become mindful is to stop, breathe, notice what is going on, relax, and say, okay, here I am. And if I am here, I can pronounce the mantra on love. I am here for you. And then I can pronounce the second mantra. I know you are there. And it makes me very happy. And we can say that to each other, to our loved ones, and we can say that to Mother Earth as well. And that's the beginning of being able to fulfill that solemn vow that Thai wants to make, a collective vow that Mother Earth can count on us, that we heard in the Touching the Earth this morning. Right action, right livelihood. Whatever kind of livelihood we're in, we may be able to help things go in a better direction. There's a beautiful talk by Cherry Maples, who so sadly she died prematurely in a road accident. But in 2016, there was a June retreat, it was called the Vulture Peak Retreat, and she gives this most amazing talk that you can watch on Plum Village Online, YouTube. Cherry Maples is a police officer in Madison, Wisconsin, and was the start of her career, and she asked Thai, she came to a retreat and said, can I take the 5 mindfulness trainings because I carry a gun, which has got a certain purpose, but Thai, I think it was Sister Chan Kong said to her, we wouldn't want anybody carrying a gun that wasn't mindful. So she was encouraged to take, and then she went on to organize a retreat for police officers, for people in that sector of society, and they had a lot of suffering, and partly because of the perception that the public have of them and the positions that they find themselves in, the compromises they have to make, the kind of impossible situations they can find themselves in, the pressure they're under. So they very much needed the practice. In India, Shantam arranged, and I happened to be on a trip where he arranged for hundreds of police officers to attend. So I found myself, the first talk I was giving like this in a retreat at a school, and there was I think there was about 100 uniformed police officers, Indian, sitting in front of me. And I was like, okay, what is the appropriate teaching? I can't remember what I said. But we had Dharma discussion with those groups, and they also shared similar, that they, And I think Cherry Maples, she did a lot to bring compassion into her workplace, into that community for themselves, because we know we have to start here, but then also to see how that can come to a more compassionate way. And I think her main concern was, again, this aspect of community, that the police should be part of the community, not kind of a bought force that is employed by, to do work based on a centralized idea, or even become militarized. So this is something very important to know. It's not, your livelihood. You may think, oh, I'm in the wrong livelihood. I'm not, I'm not this or I'm not that. But looking deeply, what you can do within where you're at. It may be you choose to do something else. You might become a monk or a nun. But it may be that you choose, this is where I'm going to do my right action. This is where I'm going to go in the direction of right livelihood, because it's a direction. It's not a destination. Even Thai said, nirvana is a direction. It's not a destination. Just turning towards nirvana that you're already there. You're making steps in that direction. The path turns to joy. Even it's difficult, feels like, but if we make it a destination, we'll never get there, and we'll always feel like there's something missing. And yet, the experience of the kingdom of God is available to us without anything missing. And when we move on to right diligence, which is the next of the Eightfold Path, we know that we have to nourish our joy, as has been said already in this talk and by Sister Annabelle. And Thai's way to nourish joy every day was, among other things, like drinking tea, but was also to make sure that he walked in the Pure Land, in the kingdom of God every day. And not so many times have I really can say I've had that experience. Even I've been a monk now for 17 years, but I have had the experience. And it gives you a reference point. You know it's possible once you've done it. I don't know what, you could say grace in the Christian, or they talk about grace, what happened. Because sometimes you just can't fathom all the causes and conditions that allowed you to touch it. But I know some of them. I'd been really trying to practice mindful walking for, I'd really been investing in. But then what happened this one time was actually in Deer Park, and I have this very clear memory of this experience. There's a little oasis of a garden, because it's mostly in a desert bowl, a kind of semi-arid, let's say. But they make this one green area, circle, and on the tree is hung the calligraphy of Thai, and it says, "The kingdom is now or never." And I said to my brother I was walking with, let's do it. Let's walk in the kingdom. And he looked at me and he said, right, let's do it. So that means as soon as we step over the threshold into the green area, we're in the kingdom, right? He said, yep. So it was literally like one of those, like going through the looking glass experiences, like, as we walked in, and it was there. And every step that we walked in that small little garden, I knew then, Thai was not just playing a joke on us. It's true. The kingdom of God is available. And maybe I was only touching, in my own very, I can say, humble way, but you knew it's sort of self-evident when you touch it. That feeling like, wow, I'm really here. And you're really seeing things. Yeah. Of course, there was some preparation behind of trying very hard to be mindful in my steps, and unfortunately it was an impermanent thing. So I came out of the garden. I thought, no, but surely now I can just keep this. It's not just, of course, it's not about that little garden. I can keep this. But distractions come and the mind gets taken off, and it's a concentration. So we go on to the next one, right concentration. To be able to maintain what is going on. And we train this also. So in the guided meditation this morning, both by Brother Treasure and Sister Fung Nim, we had maintaining our attention on the whole length of the in-breath and the whole length of the out-breath. That is to cultivate this concentration, to stay with, to be able to stay with. So if we can do that with one in-breath and out-breath, we can do it with the next one and the next one. We just you give yourself that task. Can I do it with one in-breath and out-breath? Stay the whole length of that in-breath, the whole length of that out-breath. That is already the building block of concentration. Yeah? Being able to really maintain being your awareness. So in this terms, right concentration, maintaining the mindfulness. In fact, I missed out mindfulness. Right mindfulness, okay? Before right concentration. So, yeah, I got ahead of myself. But so with the right mindfulness we've already shared about, of how to pay attention in the present moment to what is happening in a relaxed way. Connect with what is true, what is really going on in you, around you. That is the essence of mindfulness, the practice of it also. And paying attention, and we can start by paying attention to our breathing and our steps, and then this developing the concentration. And then we come around back to right view. Yeah. Because with when we're really present, also the right view becomes, it's just how we see things. We get into a space where, we're seeing things as they are, not with our perceptions and our... We have the possibility, let's say. We have we have conditions to be able to drop the usual way we see things through the glasses, the lenses of our previous experience, and we become open to what is here and now, and actually seeing, and we don't have to just name things and therefore kind of, that's a tree, I know a tree, that's a leaf, I know what a leaf, that's a squirrel, but instead we I don't know what this is. And really allow ourselves to maybe experience for the first time. And Thai says, with our loved one also, the same thing. You think you know that person. You don't know them. They're a whole universe. You have the opportunity to look with fresh eyes every time at the person that you see every day and say, be in awe. I don't know you. I actually don't know you. In any case, they've changed, right? every single cell of our body changes every 7 years, down right to the bones. So we're always in a state of change. Our 5 skandhas, our body, our feelings, our mental formations, our perceptions, we're changing all the time. So don't assume we know the other person, and allow ourselves to see with fresh eyes. And the same with the way we connect with ourself and nature. So that is part of right concentration, is to use that attention that we cultivate to look with fresh eyes. We can put on the eye, Thai invites us to put on the spectacles of impermanence, to see things in their impermanent nature. Invites us to, when you do a hug, you breathe 6 times and you imagine that person 300 years from now. And now that's a bit weird, right? Because there'll be dust. But it's a way of saying, gosh, this person is precious to me. I need to cherish them in the present moment because they are impermanent. And it allows you to drop your little resentment, little petty irritations of the moment more easily. Things like that. We can also put on the spectacles of no self. We can put on the spectacles of looking at with the fresh eyes through the lenses of emptiness. That is a kind of concentration, emptiness. It means noticing that things do not have a separate self, that everything, the interbeing nature of everything, is empty of a separate, permanent self. So this is, but all of that belongs to the Eightfold Path, the path towards happiness. And so thank you. I'm going a bit over time and got carried away. Thank you so much for listening, and let's enjoy 3 sounds of the bell.